Hello and welcome to this first look at Microsoft Excel for the Mac. This is the 2016 version of Excel and it comes as part of the Office 365 package. In this video I'm going to create a simple spreadsheet just to show you some of the things that you can do with Excel, and later on in future videos we'll go into much more detail about those different features. But for now all I need to do is just make sure I've got my very first cell selected there on the worksheet, and I'm going to enter a title, and it's going to be for a business called ABC Supplies, and then just press the enter key, move down to the next row. I'll press the enter key one more time because I'd like to have a blank row between the title and my main spreadsheet. I'm then going to press the arrow key, the right arrow key, just to move to cell B3, and here I'm going to enter the first 3 months of the year because I'm going to record sales for January, February and March for 3 different product lines. So I'm going to enter the name of the first month, which is January. Now at this stage I'm not going to press the enter key. What instead I'm going to do is put the mouse pointer at the bottom right of that cell, and you'll observe it changes from a white cross to a black cross. When you get the black cross, I can then click and drag across, and you'll see that Excel is actually putting the names of the next 2 months in there for me automatically. That's one of the great features of Excel. It allows you to automatically fill series of names or numbers, and we'll look at that feature later on. But for now I'm going to come back and click into cell A4, and I'm going to enter some product names now, and it's going to be a simple store selling grocery products, so we'll just enter, in this case, bread, milk and cheese, hopefully things that you're all familiar with. I'll just press the enter key on the final entry there. So there's the basic labels for my spreadsheet, and obviously it wouldn't really be a spreadsheet without some numbers. So just for now I'm going to use the arrow keys just to come back to cell B4, and I'm going to enter the first value, and this will obviously be for sales of bread in January. So let's just put some numbers in there. So we'll say we've sold £150 worth in my case for January, and if I press the right arrow key we come across to February, and maybe we sold £175 worth in February, and finally perhaps £195 in March. Finally press the enter key, and again just use the arrow keys just to move the highlighter to cell B5. It's the first entry for milk. So again I'll just go through and enter the numbers. So let's say 125 for January for milk, maybe 150 in February, and 175 for March. And again same thing, just use the arrow keys to navigate around. So for cheese, maybe 95 in January, 140 say in February, and 190 in March. So those are the values for the spreadsheet. Those are my sales figures. And the next step is to actually work out the totals of these sales. So I'm going to work out the totals for each month first of all. Now to come back to the beginning of this row, I can press the arrow keys, or I can simply press the home key, and as you see there it jumps me back to the beginning of the row, and I'm going to type in the word total, and again just use the right arrow key to move across. Now here I could enter a calculation to work out the total for January, and then perhaps another one for February and a further one for March, but to make my life a little bit easier I'm going to create totals for all 3 months at the same time, as you will see. So I'm going to click into cell B7, which is the total for January, and then hold the mouse button down and drag across to cells C7 and D7, and you'll see there those 3 cells are now highlighted. There's a selection area around those cells. I can release the mouse button. First of all I'll just double check that I'm on the Home tab of Excel, and then if I come across to the right hand side you will see we have this button here, Auto Sum, and if I click Auto Sum you will see instantly the totals go into each cell, and I have the totals for each month. Now if I click on the first one, for example the total for January, take a look in the formula bar and you'll see the actual calculation that's been created for me. We'll look in much more detail at creating calculations in Excel later on in this series of videos, but for now I'm going to create another set of totals, and these will be totals for my product lines. So I'm going to come across to cell E3, and again just type in the word there, total, press the enter key, and as before I'm going to select cells, in this case from E4 down to E7. I'm also actually going to total up my monthly totals, so I end up with a grand total, as you will see. So if I come across again and click on that auto sum button, all the values go in, or the calculations go in, and we now have totals for the months, and we also have a grand total. So there's my basic spreadsheet already created. The next stage will be to apply some formatting to make it look interesting. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually have the title go across the entire width of the spreadsheet. So to do that, I need to select cells A1, just click and drag across to E1. So I've selected 5 cells, and I'd like those cells to be merged together and have the title centered. And there's a button on the Home tab that will do that, and it gives the game away really, because it's called Merge and Center. So if I click on that button, you'll see those 5 cells are all merged together, and the content of the original cell, which is A1, is now centered across the selected range. I'm also going to change the size of the title, and if I come to my formatting section just above, you'll see again on the Home tab we have the number here that represents the font size. In this case I'm going to click on the drop down arrow and just come down, and let's set that font size to 20. Make the title a little bit larger, and perhaps I'll also apply some bold formatting as well. Just click the B button there for bold. Very similar formatting features. If you've ever used a word processor, you'll be familiar with these formatting options. So let's go on and format the rest of the spreadsheet. I'm going to have bold formatting applied to all my labels. So I'm going to select January, February, March total and apply bold, and select bread, milk, cheese, and again the total for the month's label. Click B again for bold. Next I'm going to have the grid lines for my table stand out much more strongly by selecting everything from cell A3 right down to E7. Come back to the formatting tools, and just to the right of the bold, italic, underline buttons there's a border button. If I click on the drop down arrow, you'll see there we have a number of options, and I'm going to select the all borders option. And now if I click away from that selection, you'll see we have the grid lines showing much more strongly. I think I'll add a bit of colour as well to the spreadsheet. So if I click into the title again, let's have a colour background for that. And again, just next to the borders button, you'll see the fill colour button there. Again, just click on the drop down, and I think I'll choose this gold colour, this light gold. And I'll also apply colours to my labels as well. So I'm just going to select everything from A3 across to E3, and perhaps we'll choose a different colour, maybe this light green, and let's apply the same colour down to my bread, milk, cheese and total labels. So we can click on the button this time without changing the colour. And perhaps we'll apply a colour to my grand total as well. So if I click on that, cell E7, let's click on the drop down arrow, and this time choose maybe a light blue. And one final thing I'd like to do with this spreadsheet is just to show people who are reading the spreadsheet, looking at the numbers, make sure that they know that these numbers are currency values and not indicating, for example, quantities. I need to apply currency formatting. So I'm going to select all the numbers first of all. So that's everything from, in this case, B4, cell B4, down to cell E7. Again, just make sure that you're on the Home tab, come past the Merge and Center options, and you will see you have currency options here. If I click on the drop down arrow, you'll see I've got, in this case, English UK, United States and Euros. So depending on where you are, you will have currencies customized for your own region. So you will probably have different options than I have. I'm in the UK, so I'm simply going to select English UK, and that will apply the pound formatting to my numbers. Now if I don't like the decimal places, for example, all my numbers end in 00, so I might just want to have whole numbers showing without the decimal places. I can change that by again coming back to the number formatting options, and you'll see on the right side of those options we have 2 buttons. One is to increase decimal places, and if you just put the mouse over, you actually see it pops up a message to say increase, and the other one is to decrease, and if I click that twice I will remove those decimal places. So that's an option if you're dealing in large values and you don't want to show those decimal values, the smaller, the pence or the cents or whatever it might be. Now if I just click back in the title, you'll see the completed spreadsheet with the formatting. And one last thing I'll do in this video is create a simple chart as well. And I'm going to select first of all everything from cell A3 down to D6. So that's all the values for the months and the product lines, but in this case excluding the totals. And to create the chart, I go to the Insert tab, and if you come across and take a look at the center of the Insert tab, you'll see the chart options are all here. We have a recommended charts option, and if I click on the drop down there, the very first one is the one that I want on this occasion, the clustered column chart. And there's the chart applied to the spreadsheet. I can then move it. If I put the mouse pointer into the chart area, I can click and drag and reposition that just below my worksheet. If I then click away, you'll see the completed spreadsheet with the chart. I'm going to change the chart title to something more meaningful, so if I click on that, I can then click and drag to highlight the existing text. I'm just going to change it to Sales Report, which is a more meaningful title, I think. And just click away to deselect that. And finally, I'll just show you how the chart is automatically linked to the data. So if we have a look at our sales in January and look at the cheese figure, £95, and if we take a look on the chart, you'll see that cheese is represented by the grey bar. So let's just say that the cheese figure for January was wrong, and it turns out it was actually £175. So if I now enter that figure for cheese into cell B6, when I press the enter key, take a look at the chart, and you'll see the chart automatically updates to reflect the new figure. Very useful feature, great time saver. In future videos we'll be learning much more about charts, entering data, formatting, creating calculations, and much more besides. But in the meantime, thank you for watching this overview of Excel, and I'll see you in the next video.